All right, boys and girls, welcome to the Saga, the Clone Saga, aka the Clone Zone, a podcast presented by the students of S.H.I.E.L.D. We are reading and talking about the entire infamous 1990 Spider-Man Clone Saga. Joining you today, I am Michael Spack.
I'm Matt.
And my name is Vincent.
And we got a special guest for the sponsor today. Damone, take it away.
15th anniversary of Hush. Review coming soon.
Yeah, watch for that. Damone and I are going to read Hush. It's going to be fun. This episode is covering the aftermath of our last episode, which was Web of Death. And this is going to focus on the 3-issue miniseries for The Funeral for Doctor Octopus and then a really bad issue of Spider-Man Unlimited. Vince, take it away with your normal shtick.
Well, I want to say real quick, those Hush hardcovers, they actually do look kind of cool. They have like that like embossed like Hush font, but it's 2 hardcovers for 1 story, so it's kind of dumb.
Those were hardcovers. That was one of them was hardcover. The other one was
really?
Softcover. Yeah.
All right, that makes it even worse.
Yeah. Fun fact: those were the first Batman books I had as a kid, like that I bought myself.
All right, so Funeral for an Octopus. It is written by Tom Brevoort and Mike Kantarovich. Brevoort is a longtime editor at Marvel. He's currently one of their executive editors. I think it's just one. I'm not totally sure how their like executive like tree works. And
all I know is that he's been the editor of Avengers for fucking ever.
Yeah, he's been editing Avengers since basically Heroes Return in 1998, so the start of the Busiek Perez run. I thought he was on it before. Like I thought he was on it even maybe before the Crossing, but that is not true. And he also currently serves as the senior VP of publishing at Marvel. So he has climbed up the ladder quite a bit. Kantarovich, on the other hand, I think from what I could tell, he's just a writer, but almost all of his work at Marvel is with Brevoort. So they were buddies or something. The 2 of them together, so Brevoort, mostly an editor, doesn't have that much writing work. The 2 of them together did the spin-off title Fantastic Force, which was a 90s Fantastic Four spin-off ongoing. It starred Franklin, I'm pretty sure like an up-aged version, which I don't know how that totally works because he's like young again later. Franklin's aunt from an alternate future, which I don't understand because like, I don't know, I guess he has a totally different family in this alternate version. A Wakandan named Vibraxis with the ability to vibrate things, and an Inhuman that can turn into a large ape-like creature. So not the great title, but so eventually they ended up pulling in Human Torch and She-Hulk, and they had Black Panther guest star a bunch because of the Wakandan connection. And that Wakandan character actually, he later serves as a guest star in the Black Panther series, I believe in Hudlin's run. But it might be one of the other runs. But yeah, that series was super 90s and just terrible. Like it had 90s, like really 90s art. The first covers like a foil cover thing. The 2 of them also wrote the second half of Secret Defenders together, which Secret Defenders was originally a Doctor Strange spinoff, basically, because it was started off by Roy Thomas, because he was writing the Doctor Strange ongoing at the time. And the premise was, it was kind of like a Defenders, like a sequel to the Defenders book, but it was basically Doctor Strange and he just assembled totally random dudes for new teams for every mission. And then that part of the series ended, and then it turned into this like totally weird thing for a few issues where it was Ron Mars and it was tying into some cosmic stuff. And then the second half is Brevoort and Kantarovich, and the Strange is hardly in the book anymore, and the main characters that are actually relevant are Deadpool and Dr. Druid in his like 90s like ponytail version when they were trying to make him cool. And that is like that one, like Fantastic Force, like people mostly forget, but like Secret Defenders in general, and especially this part of it, is like one of those books that every Marvel fan just knows is terrible and hates. And Kantarovich by himself, he also wrote, and actually I'm assuming he's not there, but this would be relevant to Damone, Kantarovich also wrote the Archie Sonic ongoing for like 2 years around this same time. So like back in like '94, when like the Sonic ongoing was only on like issue 11. So
you're wondering, yeah, he left the sponsor.
Brevoort and Kantarovich, this is like true like D-listers, especially like writers. Like I don't know what's going on. And these first 2 issues are drawn by Stuart Johnson, which I had to double take because I didn't recognize that. Mm-hmm. He's mostly credited and known as Staz Johnson. I think he's like Eastern European or something, so maybe the nickname makes sense, but I don't know. But Staz Johnson is known for a several-year run on Robin, the Tim Drake series that Chuck Dixon wrote for much of it. And Staz Johnson actually came back to Peter and Otto with the Negative Exposure miniseries from Brian K. Vaughan, which I believe we mentioned before.
Oh, neat.
So there's all the useless credit information. So how about let's do overall. What did you guys think of the miniseries? We'll get to Unlimited later.
It's crap.
Okay, well, you were talking about this while you were reading it. You hate it.
It's garbage.
I actually don't mind it. I was having fun, and that's probably because there's a lot of action going on, which made these issues very easy to read.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Mike. Like, I think it is bad, but like it's in this weird like guilty pleasure area where like
exactly
they're just going really over the top with some of the stuff.
This dialogue is unbearable. I don't know which one of those two wrote it, but everybody talks like a cartoon.
But it's like so ridiculous. Like the quips are like up to 11 in this book.
That's why I love it.
They're not even quips anymore.
It almost every single line they say is a quip.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of like it almost like feels like this like nostalgic like Silver Age thing, like if Stan Lee was like on drugs or something and writing in the 90s. I don't
what this really feels like is it feels like what everyone remembers old comics were like, but really weren't at all.
Kind of? Like I mean, if Pete was clipping the entire time, I'd buy it, I guess. If Ben was, I guess I'd buy it. But you've got like the Vulture is here speaking in one-liners. It's just crazy.
But remember, he's cool now.
No, he's not. I hate him more. I want him as old man.
He's actually described as the all-new Vulture at some point.
The all-new, all-different Vulture?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I just gave Marvel an idea.
But I mean, Zdarsky like sort of kind of tried that. But also the cover of this first issue, obviously like it's supposed to be metaphorical, like ox arms reaching out of the ground. But also Peter and Ben are in the cover next to each other, and they don't technically come across each other at all in this miniseries.
They never come across each other, which is so weird because I was waiting for the moment it was going to happen, and it never did.
No, yeah.
It might have been neat to see the two of them fight the Sinister Six together. I might have enjoyed that.
Did you guys notice did you guys notice the like near the Marvel logo how it's Peter and Ben back to back?
Yeah, remember I screenshotted
that
and put it in our chat.
Yeah. I mean, there's like the tradition like at Marvel where you put like the starring characters like near the like number and the price and stuff like that. It's like a super dumb detail, but I thought that was kind of cool. And it will be interesting like once Peter and Ben like converge again. It'll be interesting if they like start doing like if they use that or something like that. But minor detail.
As far as the art goes, I really liked the art in these 3 issues.
I was kind of mixed on it. I mean, also I'll get to it when we get there, but the 3rd issue, the art team changes. But at the same time, I didn't like 100% notice it, but I also wasn't paying super close attention to this episode. It's reading, honestly.
I mean, this is really a tale of two conversations. We have these 3 issues, and then I feel like we're just going to shit all over the Spider-Man Unlimited issue.
Yeah.
I mean, that deserves its own discussion because it's so far removed and different in quality from this.
So you guys thought my trivial information was over, but actually, surprise, there's one more thing I have to mention. It's related to the cover. So on the cover, I'm gonna call attention to the word terror, which is it's not literally bolded, but it's a different color, so it's bolded as far as the cover is concerned. And so you guys think this Clone Saga is drawn out and massive. We're not actually even reading every Spider-Man book that was coming out at this time. And some of that has to do with, as I discussed, like things are really ramping up because when they split the editor-in-chief position, like suddenly the Spider-Man line has to like fully support itself as like a fifth of the company, which it already was, but like they need to give people more jobs. And so the same month this issue came out, the 3rd issue of the Spider-Man Power of Terror miniseries dropped. And that series stars Peter and doesn't really acknowledge anything to do with the Clone Saga, to my knowledge. Otherwise, it would be in our reading order, especially if like Ben showed up. It's actually more a weird epilogue to, and this is where this connects back to the last episode and our sponsor of the last episode. The Spider-Man Power of Terror miniseries is actually like a weird semi-epilogue to the Dwayne McDuffie and Gregory Wright underrated Deathlock run.
What the fuck?
But the Power of Terror miniseries is just written by Wright. McDuffie has no connection to it.
All right, pause for a second here, because you're known for making. How the hell did you find a cut this deep?
I just know. I mean, I was looking into this Deathlock run not too long ago, and so I saw Terror on the cover, and I'm like, oh, when did that come out?
You had to have. No, you purposely looked at, like, no, you don't just fall into this one.
I mean, it's half and half. And so that miniseries also co-stars Daredevil in his armor stuff, which we also saw a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
And Gregory Wright got his start in the industry thanks to a friendship he had with D.G. Chichester. And Chichester was the Daredevil writer who did Fall from Grace. And Gregory Wright actually took over Daredevil when Chichester walked away from the series due to editorial differences. And at this time, Gregory Wright is also wrapping up his Silver Sable and the Wild Pack series, which I believe we also mentioned.
Yeah.
And also, he's actually like pretty connected to all this Spider-Man stuff because Wright was also writing the Morbius the Living Vampire series, which spun out of the Midnight Sun stuff. But obviously, people know Morbius for his relation to Spider-Man. And so he's been done with that run for a few months. So I just felt the need to highlight one of those forgotten writers of the 90s. Though I should say, like, I don't necessarily think Gregory Wright is like this underrated gem. Like,
right. Yeah.
He kind of coasted on his two friends in McDuffie and Chichester. To be honest, like basically Marvel wanted McDuffie to write Deathlock, but like McDuffie didn't have the time or something like that. I don't know what, he had other assignments.
A lot of people don't have the time to write Deathlock.
So it's like an arc by McDuffie, an arc by Wright, an arc by McDuffie, and then like halfway through McDuffie just completely stops, and like it is like night and day. You can totally tell when McDuffie's writing it. But it's a really cool run. It's like it's a version of Deathlock. I believe it's Deathlock 4. It might be Deathlock 5, because one of them was like introduced in only one story to set up this book. But it's a pacifist Deathlock. It's kind of cool. And the artist for that Deathlock series was Dennis Cohen. And so then as part of some of the frustration of that Deathlock series and working on that together, Dennis Cohen and Dwayne McDuffie, then after that series ended, moved and created Milestone. And one of the launch titles of Milestone was Hardware, which was our sponsor last week.
It's all connected.
Yep, everything is connected. So this issue, basically, it starts with Spidey Peter going to Otto's lab, and he reminisces on the villain. I mean, that's basically the premise for this entire miniseries. But off the bat, so Spider-Man's looking to see if he can find any clues or anything like that. And he's like, the feds took everything. They cleaned it completely clean. Except then he picks up a giant vial of the lethal toxin that is killing him. And so whoever cleaned up that lab did a terrible job. And the other part of this miniseries is like there were a few moments where I was getting those everything is connected, like they're all reaches, but like those everything is connected moments.
Sure.
There's a line of dialogue where Pete's reminiscing on Otto, and he says that he owes Ock big time, and big time is bolded. And that's when all of all the way back in big time, but also like 20 years from now is when some of that superior stuff, when Slott was starting the beginnings to build to that point.
That might be a stretch. I'm gonna get this
totally
a stretch.
But like it's totally a coincidence, but it's like bolded big time. And it owes Ock big time. I mean, like the headcanon is like Dan Slott like read this and read this. He's like, I'm gonna call big time, and all of that is gonna lead to Otto Octavius taking over Peter's body, because even though like he doesn't really make the connection, because Otto died because of Peter, sort of.
If that's the case, then I guess thank you, Tom, for giving a superior Spider-Man.
Or not. Depends on who you are.
I guess.
So, Mike, if this miniseries led to Superior, do you no longer support it?
Do I no longer support this miniseries?
This miniseries.
I mean, listen. I didn't say I supported this miniseries to begin with.
Okay. So then we get Otto's funeral and the Bugle crew, and I'm pretty sure we've talked about this on a previous episode too, but Betty Brant talks about how her brother, Otto didn't actually kill her brother, but her brother was killed as a result of Otto's actions way back in Amazing Spider-Man 11.
Yeah, that felt like a deep cut.
It is a deep cut.
Relevant, I guess, but
I mean they're going through like all of the like, they reference a lot of the major like things that Otto has done, but
is the death of Bennett Brant one of the major things that Otto has done?
Well, not the death, because remember,
that's right.
Bennett Brant is not dead. He's going to show up toward the end of Rick Remender's Venom run.
Much better book. I recommend reading that long before anything to talk about in this podcast.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think through this entire podcast, I don't think we'll see Agent Venom at all. Unfortunately,
probably not.
So then we get Otto's cousin giving the eulogy, and this is not his first appearance. He appeared, and it's referenced here. He appeared in the Lethal Foes miniseries.
Apparently.
But past this, I mean, it's the loop is closed at the end. But past this miniseries, he never appears again.
It's weird, I think, that Otto gets like a celebrity's funeral. There's press here.
Well,
like that would make sense. I mean, he is a known figure in the city of New York.
I guess.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
I mean, I think it totally makes sense that like if people are gonna worship heroes, there's like for memorabilia and like or notoriety and stuff, people are gonna also just come out to the villains ones just as well. Like it's just it's that reality factor.
That does make sense, yeah.
And then I thought this was like just dumb and hilarious. So then Ben creeps on the funeral and then leaves. And then Peter comes back. Peter comes back in costume, creeps on the funeral, and then leaves. We've got both Spider-Men just stalking his gravestone. And Otto's cousin gets a VHS tape, and he has all of Otto's possessions. Or
he gets all of his patents?
Yeah, his patents. Which I mean, like I don't like. So when all of the, without going too far, because we're going to get to it, but when all of this is resolved, shouldn't he still have all that?
I would
Like,
think so.
He totally should.
Oh no, because it's not real.
Oh, that's
Spoiler
right.
alert.
Not. It's a doctored video.
I know, but wouldn't he possibly? But the actual lawyer still does exist, right? One would assume.
I guess
Unless
somewhere.
Mysterio like killed him.
I mean, even so, like I mean, I assume Otto did have a will somewhere. Even if he doesn't, like if this guy allegedly is his one surviving like relative, his property should go to him. And I feel like that's.
Well,
I mean,
we're talking about a felon, so I don't know if that's how that would work. Like, I can totally see like those patents going up for sale and like Stark International buying them out and shit.
Or maybe he like left it all to his friend. Maybe Herman Schultz has all his patents.
That'd be amazing.
I would love that.
Are they
How about that
friends?
miniseries where he has
I don't
all
know,
the
probably
patents
not.
and gets all the money?
I think the Shocker is the best person to have all of Doc Ock's patents.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That this there's definitely. I mean, it's dumb, and I don't necessarily want to read the story, but this is a story potential thing that they dropped the ball on.
Completely.
What actually happens to all of Otto's patents and his
I think
property?
Tony Stark would buy them.
But then again, honestly, it might be addressed because we know that the female octopus is coming up, but I don't know entirely how that connects.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Also, then the all new Vulture shows up again, and I don't know why this stood out to me because like it makes sense and everything, but Vulture like specifically references how he has a secret Dropbox that no one knows about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is his like aunt sending him cookies there or something?
There's no way his aunt's still alive.
That
Adrian Toombs is 600 years old.
true, but like when you get DA,
Anyway,
do your
where you got
relatives?
that's where he gets all of them.
So Ben and Vulture come across who? Okay, yeah. So this is the first time. This is the first time Vulture has seen Ben, right?
Right.
Or were they converging in that last story too?
I think it's the
No,
first
this
time
is the first time they've met.
Okay, yeah. And I think Vulture realizes that he's not. Yeah, realizes that he's not the real Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then how does Ben save some civilians, and why is this relevant to this stupid miniseries?
Matt, you want to take that one?
A really forced reference to the death of Captain Stacy.
Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous.
It's insane. The Vulture breaks a chimney. The point is not Kane.
Kane did not break this chimney.
No. It's so I'm a little disappointed there, but Vulture breaks a chimney and the rubble's gonna crush a woman and her child, and Ben just kind of jumps in the way and catches it with his stomach, which I guess works.
It's like the whole like how do you save someone who gets thrown off a bridge thing, but like this is even dumber. Like the solution here.
Yeah.
I like to imagine Kane is somewhere going like whispering like good is like after the chimney got broken, he's like good. He's like Vulture, you will not receive the mark of Kane.
So then some government agency, which never gets fully explained, is trying to replicate Otto's arms. And
yeah.
Matt, did you peep this B movie joke? Pre-B movie?
Yes. And talking about how bumblebees shouldn't be able to fly.
I literally laughed out loud.
I don't remember this.
Like according to every aerodynamic principle in the book, they can't fly.
I think Jerry Seinfeld improved on the wording.
He did, yes.
That's the other thing. We were talking about how like if Dan Slott read this and then set up Big Time and Superior, headcanon, Jerry Seinfeld read this issue and then was like, I'm gonna make the B movie, untapped potential for children's cinema.
This is
except
this
we know
is
that's
B-movie
not,
origins.
because what book would Jerry Seinfeld actually be reading?
Superman.
Exactly.
Well, what is it like? Every episode of Seinfeld has like one Superman reference?
Every episode of Seinfeld has Superman in it because Jerry Seinfeld has a Superman statue in his apartment.
I read
Oh, cool.
another like just dumb, unrelated, but it's all connected comment. I read recently that in a few episodes of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith has some milestone posters in his room.
Oh, really?
And so I'm gonna probably go screenshot those at some point.
Neat.
So then Vulture returns to his sinister not six. Matt, how would you rate this gang of villains?
Was there 5 of them or 4 of them?
4.
There's 4. Well, you have DA Vulture, who sucks. You have Macendale Hobgoblin, who sucks.
I was gonna say this is Macendale.
It's
This is
Macendale.
Okay.
You have Max Dillon, who sometimes sucks. And
No, he's awesome because he's in his actual cool costume.
is it a cool costume?
I fucking
love
love
it.
that mask. It's so great.
I'm pretty ambivalent on Electro. I'm not a huge fan, but like, he's fine.
I mean, I like his costume, but he goes on that thing where like Spider-Man always has to rely on a gimmick to beat him, like luring him towards
Yeah.
water or something.
And Mysterio, who is the coolest villain on this team. And if Mysterio is the coolest villain on your team, you've got a problem.
But Mysterio is cool.
Yeah, he is, but like, there are a lot cooler than Mysterio.
So the plot here is that they're going to work for Otto's cousin to recover his arms and those patents and all that crap.
I like this. They're sitting around this video screen waiting for a call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's the next issue, but then you see Hargrove's like hardware that he used for the video call, and it's like this like giant like satellite dish and like a camera thing that like come out of what looks like a suitcase. I thought that was hilarious.
Meanwhile, we're just sitting here.
Yeah. Also, there's a totally like pointless page with MJ and Pete. What did you guys think of Staz Johnson's MJ?
She looks fine.
He looks fine. Her face is
Yeah.
kind of wide.
Looks better than Sabu Shema's.
I don't like any of his faces. His Pete's face looks. He looks like Stephen King. He looks terrible.
Yeah.
But I don't know. MJ looks fine.
Yeah, it's fine given his style. She's wearing
Do you
some
like
bunny slippers. Yeah, the bunny slippers. I like them.
Yeah, I dig that. I like that she doesn't have her ridiculous '90s hair. I'm not a big fan of the '90s hair.
Well, I mean, we haven't seen that as much in the regular issues. I think.
I don't feel like we've seen this ridiculous '90s hair that I keep hearing about.
Well, that's the thing is it's not really '90s because like it's
It's
more
80s.
like. Well, yeah, it's turn of the decade because McFarlane's run on Spider-Man, I believe, starts in like '88 or something,
Mhm.
88 or 80, 89, I think, because they get
It's
married in
89.
like '88.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I guess that was mostly like a McFarlane
Very
thing, like
96.
Bagley, maybe I guess Larson probably did that some, but
Mhm.
that Bagley we're pretty much past that. So that was maybe like a 3-4 year thing, and we're past that.
Yeah.
And so then Ben ambushes the Sinister Six.
And it was awesome. I loved it.
So I asked about whether Vulture realizes that it's not the real Spider-Man. Vulture was able to quickly realize. So does Hobgoblin, but Electro's an idiot.
Yep.
And I think the line like it's Spider-Man and then someone else saying that's not Spider-Man. I think that happens like 3 times in this miniseries.
I think it does. Yeah.
Hey, Ben's still reminding us that he's a clone too. So
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead.
At the same time, at this point, we know that he's not a clone, but he technically is. Like what part of that is he claims to have fought the Green Goblin, which.
I called bullshit on that. I was like, no.
Well, it's like if a second later in his like we get a thought balloon like I didn't actually fight him. I'm a clone. That's Peter's memory. Like that would be what we expect at this point, and that would make sense. But the thing is, like, at this exact moment, technically what he's saying is true, but then it's technically not true. This that's things are going to be confusing for a bit.
I was fine with him saying he's fought the Green Goblin. He has those memories. I really don't need him reminding me again that he's a clone.
But I mean, there's a decent little fight. The Sinister Six are kind of cooperating, but they're also jokes. And Ben, like we said, like the quips are like every single line, especially from Ben and Peter. And I thought it was interesting because like we've been contrasting Ben and Peter this whole time, and like which one, especially when we were in that like spider period. But like even still, like I feel like Ben's been more cheery than Peter, but I feel like we haven't gotten like full on quippiness from him yet, for the most part.
Sure, yeah.
He's just like slightly more charming than Peter right now, I guess.
I think he's more fun to read for sure.
Yeah.
Who, Ben?
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, because he's not moping around. This was the first time I felt like Peter was actually like back to normal.
Or close to it.
Yeah.
So the fight ends with the Sinister Six thinking they beat Ben, and then the next thing that happens is they go to the lab, and then Peter stops them. And there's another ongoing recurring segment for this podcast. Peter's spider sense alerted him to Ben's tracker. That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. I was happy to say this, though. I just realized this. You know who we didn't see in the story?
Who?
We did not have a pointless scene in a hospital with Aunt May.
True.
So automatically, this story gets bonus points.
I mean, on the other hand, I feel like that's missed potential because Ock is dead. We're reminiscing about a major dead character. So you want to check in with the character who might be dying.
I was thinking more that they were dating at one point.
Well,
what's her opinion on her ex dying?
No, yeah, I think, Matt, I think when, you weren't here. Yeah, you weren't here last episode.
No.
So can you acknowledge publicly that plot is really stupid?
Yes.
Okay. Shout out to Jerry Conway.
Yeah, it's dumb.
But the quips are like so over the top, but like I think they're good quips. It's just like they should be like every fifth line. Some of them.
I've been I don't know, trying to I would like to come up with some sort of standard, what makes a good Spider-Man quip and what is really cringy, and I haven't yet, but I want to figure that out because like sometimes reading the slot writes, some of it's really good and some of it's hard to read, and a lot of this I think falls in the latter category.
Well, and yeah, that is a good point because like I'd have to compare this to the other current example is obviously Chip Zdarsky.
Yeah.
And I read the first like 3 issues of the Spectacular, and I thought his quipping was way off.
Mm-hmm.
For my personal taste at least. But I liked the arachnid versus insect debate.
I like that.
Liked that. I thought that was good.
That's definitely not original here, right? Like
no,
it says how many times. Yeah. And then again, the Dan Slott foreshadowing. Spidey falls like into Otto's arms and puts them on, and he introduces himself as the amazing Octo Spidey. And it's Spider-Man with arms.
Yeah. So I guess Dan Slott definitely had to have read this miniseries.
I mean, well, we know he's read the Clone Saga. The question is whether he's wasted his time on this.
Right.
Or at least we know he knows what happened in the Clone Saga.
Did you
I like to imagine that Dan Slott watches this podcast?
I really hope so.
While you're, I know we've had plenty of small tangents already, but did you pick up on the Ross Andrew shout out?
No,
Yeah, I
have no idea
did.
what you're talking about.
I did.
It's terrible.
What
This
was it?
this guy yells, "Ross, Andrew, get those arms on a transport."
Oh,
Yeah.
but it's like normal Andrew, like
Yeah.
RAW.
Yeah.
I mean, I
I
guess
hate it.
that has to be a reference, I guess. But
I
I
hate
totally
it.
missed
I
it.
like to be like, oh man, like maybe Ross's birthday is this month, and they're like, oh, we'll throw this in there for him, and they didn't know how to spell his last name,
It's
and
terrible.
like Ross gets it. Tom Brevoort picks it down on a desk. He's like, hey Ross, look through this. We did something nice for you. And he's like, you fucking asshole.
I'm sitting here. I'm reading this terrible Spider-Man miniseries, and they're like, "Hey, you know what you could be reading instead? Something with Ross Andrew art." But no, here's the story about Spider-Man, about the incredible Octo Spidey. Have fun.
Remember when we had episodes with Gil Kane and Ross Andrew on art?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, those were fun.
They were.
But then I like how like 2 pages later, Vulture calls Spider-Man or the arachnid. So he learned his vocabulary, which entertained me.
Yeah, about time.
Character development.
Entertained no one else.
And so Hobgoblin shoots his dumb thing and damages the helmet. So Peter has these arms, but now he's no longer in control of them. And Electro and Mysterio are just like, we out. But they run right into
Kane.
Yes, this asshole. So
Also describes Roman Reigns.
moving into the third and final part, something happened behind the scenes in this third issue. Staz Johnson is not involved at all. The breakdowns are by Todd Smith and finishes by 3 different people, but it's also like 3. I didn't take precise notes on who it is, but it's like 3 people who are like 2 of them are names like on the ongoing Spider-Man books.
It's Milgram, Sal Buscema, and Hudson.
Yeah. So obviously Buscema is one of the ongoing ones, and then Al Milgram's like he's one of those like classic like late 80s Marvel artists, and other stuff like he co-created Firestorm with Jerry Conway. But those are like 2 big name artists, and like the whole like breakdowns finishes thing, that's always confusing terminology because like sometimes what that like breakdowns what that means sometimes is like you're basically just like drawing super quick like sketches, like just like you could even do like a stick figure, like this is the pose and the angle, the pose for the characters and the angle that I want for this panel and the layout of the page. And then finishes could mean then actually penciling and inking and doing like most of the art, or finishes could just mean inking, and it gets all confusing, like especially like a large stretch of Avengers when it was like I think it was John Buscema and Tom Palmer. Like it was like Palmer technically was kind of doing a lot of the work, but whatever. Some editing mishap, which is weird because like this is this stupid standalone, not standalone, but this mini series off to the side that doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So like you think they wouldn't? I mean, at the same time, it doesn't matter. But I don't know how they would drop the ball on this thing. It's kind of weird.
I don't know if this is a joke that I don't get or if it's terminology. It can't be terminology that I don't understand. Why are the editors labeled Undertaker, Overtaker, and Crypt Keeper?
Because you touch yourself at night.
Is it?
I guess just dumb theme because it's a funeral for an octopus.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, it's just like obviously Stan Lee always used to use the nicknames for when he did the credits, so they're just trying to have stupid fun,
I guess.
But also then the question is whether the funeral / like graveyard related nicknames correspond with their hierarchy in the editor's tree. Like how does a crypt keeper compare to X in the hierarchy of digging graves?
Right.
And whether that parallels.
Couldn't tell you.
But so Peter's going crazy with the arms, and I thought it's kind of interesting. Like he has to stop the arms from hurting people. Like kind of a dumb, interesting idea.
Yeah, fine.
And Mysterio's actually a robot. So Roman Reigns was not able to kill another major Spider-Man villain. And imagine if Mysterio died in the Funeral for an Octopus miniseries.
But
That'd kind of be amazing.
But Vince, even though he wasn't able to kill Mysterio, he still got put over strong.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets put over because then Electro, like,
he fucks up Electro then.
Unleashes his like absolute hardest attack right in Kane's face, and Kane has zero reaction.
Yeah, he just tanks it, which is not something Pete could ever do.
Listen, in terms of ring psychology, Kane needs to work on his selling.
Well, I mean, we know his degenerative things. I assume it affected his nerves. So maybe Kane just doesn't have a pain response. That's my headcanon. Because otherwise, you have to blame it on his suit. So, like, maybe his suit is, like, super rubberized and grounded.
Also, did we see him like, glowing eye the last time we saw him? His suit's, like, repaired now and shit.
Yeah, well, I think that was just artists not caring last time.
Most likely.
And then after that, we're back to Spidey going, oh, my God, I can't control these arms.
Yeah, and he finally rips them off. But then I love how Kane is, like, so he couldn't kill Mysterio because it was a robot. And then he's about to kill Electro, and like he knows that Spider-Man's coming. He's like, "Oops, I gotta run." He's like, "I gotta get the hell out of here because Spider-Man can't see me." And then you can tell, like, because this is a monthly, whereas the Spider-Man books, it's like 4 books in a single month, 2 ongoing threads at the same time. You see the references, like this is before Kane and Peter met each other, so that's probably on the next episode or the next one. And so what did you guys think about Hargrove's deduction skills here? I thought this was so dumb.
I think it was so fucking stupid. But
it's also funny.
He saw the reflection in his glasses, and so he knew it was fake because the computer generated the glasses wrong or something.
He specifically names checks the law of optics.
Is that I don't know. Is that a thing? I don't.
And he comes brandishing a revolver like a madman.
Yes.
And so I mean, did you see the twist coming? Like I didn't really.
No, I did not. Actually, that twist is my favorite part of this miniseries that I kind of despise.
Mysterio?
I kind of dug that.
Yeah, so
it
Mysterio
because he told you see him escape.
Yeah. Well, you see the robot version escape.
Well, no, we saw him escape too. Like he's like during the fight, he's like, well, they're all like they're fighting Spider-Man. I'm stealing this thing.
Yeah.
So I assume he might have just slipped out then.
We didn't know. We didn't know Mysterio.
You can retroactively like pinpoint back to where he is, I assume, but this was a decent. I mean, it was an unforeseen twist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a David Copperfield reference in here.
Fun fact: I've seen David Copperfield live.
That's impressive.
I mean, he was very impressive. He made a car appear out of thin air.
Another Spider Sense question. So Matt, this is a thing, right? How Mysterio blocks his Spider Sense because otherwise he's totally useless. But how do they explain this?
How do they explain his how he blocks Spider Sense?
Yeah.
He has like dampeners or something in his gauntlets, right?
How does that affect Spider Sense?
It just does. It just dampens. They're dampeners.
Sure.
I think he usually uses some sort of mist, and he didn't say that in this issue, which kind of.
But even still, I don't. Again, like the spider sense doesn't make sense. That would make sense if it was Daredevil. Like that's like always when like Daredevil like fights in the rain or something like that, and then you can screw him up. Or like doesn't in the Wade run doesn't like Captain America use like confetti or some crap?
Yeah,
to, like
Cap uses confetti gun. Yeah. But I don't know, like random villains having ways to block his spider sense has always kind of bothered me, but it's also been a thing since like Lee and Ditko, so whatever.
I mean, to a certain extent, it's a necessary thing because like we make fun of how the spider sense is so inconsistent, but at the same time, even at its most like official interpretation, it is still slightly like OP. So it is one of those things you just have to let the plot dictate how you're going to use it, which leads to us questioning it, but it makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So Ben wins, obviously, and he lets Hargrove away. Would you have let him away? Like it sort of makes sense.
I mean, I don't know. He says that you were complicit, but you're not that bad a guy, or something. Well, I don't know if that's really true.
That's the other thing is I don't like. He's not even. I mean, I guess he is complicit in these crimes, but we also never have any clue as to like they set up this past relationship where like Mysterio has been manipulating him for years, but we have no idea what any of that was. So honestly, he could have like killed someone for Beck or no for Otto, and we have no idea.
I think it's also great that Mysterio destroys the, I guess, quote, data disk. And Hargrove is like, without the decryption code, and Ben just knows what that means. Because apparently, when you try to destroy something without first decrypting it, it explodes. This is how all computers work.
Yeah, that is not a thing. The official word from Matt Ford, the IST major.
That's right.
And then I like the ending where the second epilogue where Pete is totally fine and he has no idea what the hell happened. And and then our final line, we get some great power, great responsibility, recycling. So,
and behind him is the ghost of Doctor Octopus, which is very similar to the ghost of Peter Parker.
Yeah.
In Superior Spider-Man.
It's all connected. We're on to you. So now let's get on to Spider-Man Unlimited number 8.
Fuck this book.
It's rough.
Yeah, so
Spider-Man, without a doubt, the worst and hardest issue I've had to battle through during this podcast.
Yeah.
So Unlimited is like the anthology book, but it seems like at this point it's not really, because this is an ongoing creative team. Tom Lyle is writing it, which I thought last time it was like, oh, let's give this artist a writing job because anthology book. But he's the writer and it's drawn by Ron Lim, and like Ron Lim is a decent artist. Like he finished up Infinity Gauntlet after Perez left, and he did like almost all of the 90s cosmic stuff for Marvel, and he had like a run on Silver Surfer with Starlin and then Ron Mars. Like Ron Lim is a decent artist, but I have no idea what's going on here. But like the art here is trash.
It's garbage.
I don't know how much of it is like Ron Lim not caring or not having the time, and
what I think
how much of it is colors, inks, etc.
I think a lot of it's in the colors and the inks. This looks like it's a very early digitally colored book.
Yeah, I think we've seen some of that, like especially like they've been playing. I pointed out they've been playing with like the texture on Ben's mask. Some of that might be digital, and there was like a weird like stunner close up. I think last episode, which definitely looked like digital shading. But I don't understand this title at all at this point, because it has an ongoing creative team, and it's not like really random stories. I mean, it is, but they also like just fit in super awkwardly in the middle of all these arcs. And like I feel like they just had this title
on this book.
What?
What's the publishing date on this book?
I don't know. I think it's similar to last time where it was like technically published in the middle of the arc, or like, well, not in the middle of Funeral for an Octopus, like in the middle of the last arc where Otto dies. Or no, I guess it's right at the end. So it's directly after.
What year are we in?
Oh, like it should be like first quarter 1995.
Okay. All right, because I was looking up the Spider-Man Unlimited cartoon just to see if that was running at this time.
No.
That didn't start till '99, so
yeah.
No.
I mean, that's like I've been talking about how in the flip books for some of these issues are excerpts from the Ultimate Spider-Man novel. So it's just arbitrary adjectives. But I don't know why this book exists, honestly. Just like it doesn't really fulfill any
torturous. Because we know that once in a while we're always going to have to read a Spider-Man Unlimited issue, and we're going to hate it.
It's a pointless fifth book right now. So as far as what actually happens, a gang of villains called Terror Unlimited, with shitty like exosuits with chain guns, they attack the restaurant at the top of the World Trade Center.
These are the least intimidating terrorists I've ever seen.
So my patented dumb comment connection, these guys' armor.
Make the 9/11 joke.
No, it's not a 9/11 joke. Their armor reminds me of the Malibu Ultraverse hero Hardcase, who was basically like their like Iron Man ripoff. But so the restaurant in this issue is referred to as the Skyline Restaurant. The actual restaurant is called Windows on the World, and that ran from like it started pretty early when the trade centers were finally finished. Obviously, it's at the top, so they had to be finished building.
I prefer Tavern on the Green.
And then I think it's pretty obvious when Windows on the World ceased to be a restaurant.
Really? Could you tell me when that ceased to be a restaurant?
I think it was September 11th, 2001.
At what time?
I honestly don't know. I think it was in the morning. But what do you guys think of Ron Lim's Mary Jane?
Well,
what the hell was that?
She kind of has that 90s hair we're talking about. It's pretty close to that. It looks like somebody just sucked all of her insides out, and put her in a matte black t-shirt. It's like I can't tell where her body.
The way this
ends.
woman is drawn, I don't see how she's pregnant.
I can't see how she's alive.
I mean, to be fair, she's like very early on pregnant, but her face, for me, it was mostly her face. Like I'm a fan of the McFarlane hair, honestly, in moderation and stuff. But
sure,
Ron Lim's MJ is just terrible here. I don't know what's going on. And then Mike, who's back?
Who?
Wait, your
favorite
oh yeah, Rich Gannon's back. And then he dies.
The homeless guy is back, and he thanks Ben for saving him. And again, like this is some of the art stuff, and we might have even mentioned this last time, but Ben's hair looks like it's blonde in this issue. But
yeah, it looks like he's dyed it blonde by now.
But then, like pages later, you realize like it's not actually supposed to be blonde; it's just like weird coloring, and we know that he dyes it later. So I was confused. I was like, is this out of the reading order, and this takes place like 6 months from now? All right, so then we gotta do some timeline stuff. So Rich Gannon has his job at Stark Industries back. Let's pretend that he doesn't die at the end of this issue, which he does. So all of this is moot. But if he didn't die, do you think he loses his job in a year? And the reason why this is relevant is because in about a year, Onslaught happens, and Tony Stark is presumed dead. Obviously, readers know that Tony Stark was put into. Actually, that wasn't even Tony Stark. Tony Stark is dead. I'm pretty sure he dies during the crossing when he turns evil and is helping Kang. And then Teen Tony exists. And so Teen Tony's probably a terrible manager of Stark Industries. I don't even know if Teen Tony was doing stuff with Stark Industries. But then Teen Tony is presumed dead and gets put in the stupid pocket dimension for Heroes Reborn by Franklin Richards. And then the Japanese company Fujikawa Industries buys out Stark Industries and completely overhauls it, restructures it. So whether it's through the real Tony Stark dying and being replaced by an incompetent teenager, or Fujikawa Industries taking over the company and completely changing it, I think Rich Gannon would be homeless again anyways if he didn't die. So
you think he loses his job? I think he's probably a low enough level employee that they keep him around.
Really?
Yeah, they're going to trim the fat on the high payrollers first.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like both. I don't know. My headcanon is even if he lived, he would be homeless again shortly.
I mean, my headcanon is that Rich Gannon's a former NFL quarterback, so I don't know who this fucker is.
And then I don't know. So then Peter goes to sleep. He gets home tired and goes to sleep because he reads a letter from MJ saying that she's going out to dinner. She's going out to lunch with a friend, and so Pete thinks she's safe with friends. I thought that was funny. I thought that was kind of funny. It's like
he wasn't going to sleep.
I think it's convenient that MJ wrote this letter on a slant to perfectly fit it into the panel. That was nice of her.
Her writing on this letter, which we see in the panel, is easier to read than her actual captions when she's speaking.
Yes, it is. I was like, ooh, cursive I can read.
So then, and then I skimmed the rest of this. So I don't know that much that happens. A negotiator shows up and is negotiating with the hostages. They claim they have a nuclear bomb, I believe. And their motivation is cold cash and hot babes.
It is.
All right.
They shoot a missile randomly into the city, and it just happens to hit the mission where Rich Gannon just happens to have been going, which just happens to kill Rich Gannon, but apparently nobody else in the building, just him. And Ben Reilly just happens to be swinging by and just happens to see the explosion, so he can go over and see Rich Gannon lying dead in the rubble.
Is there a Captain Stacy?
I'm going to say, Vince, have you seen Die Hard?
Yes.
Do you like Die Hard?
Yeah.
Would you like to watch Die Hard without any of the fun, the good villains, or like the entertainment?
Or Bruce Willis?
Willis?
You don't like Terror Unlimited?
No. Because that's pretty much how this works out with none of the memorable. This is like they saw Die Hard, were like, let's do that, and then make it the most boring thing possible.
Yes.
Is there a Captain Stacy reference when Rich Gannon dies?
No.
All right, because that's a missed opportunity too, because this is like very, very barely somehow tied into the death of Doc Ock, or it's set around that time.
It is, but if I had to see 2 forced Death of Captain Stacy references in one night, I'll just throw the book and be done.
Also, all right, so I skimmed through like the second half of this issue. I feel like when Terror Unlimited is initially introduced, I thought they seemed like surprisingly organized, and there seemed like to be a hierarchy, and they were somewhat not like they were like honorable.
I agree.
But they seemed like professional in a certain way.
Yes,
and then
immediately changes.
Yeah, and then that totally devolves. They start killing hostages. The leader randomly kills a henchman for no reason.
They just shoot a guy.
Yeah, he's like, my kid needs to go to the bathroom. He goes, yeah, just shoots him. Like, okay.
Listen, when Hans Gruber had hostages, he didn't harm them. That's all I'm saying. Well, he killed Alice.
Pete wakes up. He stops a helicopter, which I guess that was them getting away, right? Or something.
Yeah.
Once
something
again,
like that.
Peter and Ben also show up to this thing, and they never interact once.
Nope.
Well, I'm gonna get to that. So, but Matt, what is going on with this Robbie Robertson thing?
So Ken Ellis shows up and does nothing in the story, and
Kind of like whenever Ken Ellis shows up anyway.
kind of like whenever Ken Ellis shows up, he's at the Daily Bugle and he's like, "Hey Robbie, I want to go to the World Trade Center thing. I think I can cover this story better than yours." And Robbie, they're in like the background. They're kind of in shadow because they want to show Yurik being all smug, and they're like, you gotta. He says, "I'm gonna take it from a human angle," and then there's this great panel where he's talking to Robbie, and Robbie's white. Actually, he's white in both panels. This is not if this is a coloring mistake, at least they're consistent.
So I don't know how they managed that.
Yeah.
And then MJ saves a child and like cradles it. I thought that was, I at this point I wasn't reading the captions and dialogue, but like just visually I was like, oh, she's pregnant, whatever, blah blah.
Yeah, it's exactly their big
motherly instincts. Yeah.
exactly they're doing what you think it is.
But like when the actual like action, when like Pete shows up, or it might have been Ben, and like they're fighting some of these like goons. I thought the like action flowed at least. Like that's the only compliment I can give this book.
I wouldn't even say the action was good. Like none of this book's good.
It's boring. It's so hard to read.
So boring.
And so the conclusion is they save the day. Ken Ellis gets the front page story. And then the final page is Peter and Ben swinging like within like 50 feet of each other.
Yeah.
So is this just a dumb page? Obviously it's just a dumb page, but
also
did they
Peter's
actually meet each
gloating
other?
about making the front page of the paper. What happened in that theme song? Action is his reward, not fame.
Also, on that same
fame,
note,
he's ignored. Action is his reward.
on the
Guess
same
not.
note, I did notice that Ben Reilly has like a moment that's kind of reminiscent of like the Spider, where he basically says like, oh, there's all these things on my mind. I want to go beat up a nameless thug to settle my mind.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Overall thoughts on this junk?
It's
It's
garbage.
terrible.
It's so bad. Funeral for the Octopus is horrendous. And when I was reading it, I thought this might be the worst comic I've ever read. And that got a Spider-Man Unlimited. And I was wrong.
I think you're a little bit too hard on Funeral for an Octopus. I thought Funeral for an Octopus was good fun.
I think it's bad fun.
I mean, it was like just totally pointless miniseries that doesn't really do anything at all. But I had 2 laughs, mostly unintentional.
Entirely unintentional.
As we look ahead, I see the jackal on the cover of the next issues we'll be reading, which is back to Web of Spider-Man. And it's Smoke and Mirrors. It's a 3-issue arc, and I see the jackal on it, and it says, "The secret of the jackal. Oh no, what could it mean?"
It's time for some Clone Saga stuff.
Yes, we're finally getting. So the next episode, like Mike said, the bulk of it is Smoke and Mirrors. Pete and Ben are actually converging again, and they're going to fight the jackal, and more clones are going to show up.
Ooh.
And the major question is Pete a clone? Is Ben a clone? Are both of them clones?
Am I a clone? Also, not a clone? Is Vince a clone?
But also,
am I a clone?
The next episode, there's also a small surprise as well. We'll also be reading the Clone Journal one-shot. And I'll just tease it at that.
I can't wait. I'm excited for the Clone Journal. That sounds like a fun read.
The Clone Journal sounds like a really bad Skinamax flick.
And with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next episode.
Sleep well.